And welcome to the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and often guests, guide you to the world of online communications in a show which was the brainchild of the late great internet evangelist John Popham. And in true Dr. Tech fashion, we start with the weather. So let's welcome our special guest, Liz Hardwick. Liz, how are you? Where are you? And how's the weather where you are?
Hello. Thank you very much for having me on. This is very exciting. So where am I? What's the weather like? So I'm in Chorley in Lancashire, and do you know what? It's gorgeous today. It's really sunny. For sort of September time, it's not too bad. I think we're on about like 15 degrees, so quite mild in the sun. It feels really nice. So yeah, it's a good alternative to sitting in on Zoom calls all day. I'll definitely say that.
Absolutely. And Sweyn, how are you? And how's the weather in Orkney? And you're muted.
Well, there's a good start. Orkney is lovely today. And as I say that, the clouds roll in and it's gone all overcast. But we've got a couple of cruise liners in Kirkwall today, so there's lots of visitors about. And it's, as you say, it's what you might call unseasonably warm.
And are they coming for the Wi-Fi? They used to, didn't they? Did you used to say that?
Yes, the passengers come to see the sights, and the crew tend to get off in Kirkwall, where it's quite convenient for them to get to the town, and they will find every free Wi-Fi hotspot around the town and camp on it. Yes.
So if you want to find Wi-Fi in Kirkwall, just follow the cruise
ship
staff.
Crew, yes, for sure, because it's far cheaper by doing it that way than trying to get access on the ship.
Yeah, good to know. And here in Birmingham, I've been out for a walk this morning in beautiful blue skies. I tweeted a link earlier, showed a photograph.
Yes.
And it's just glorious to be out and see that sun, that ball of whatever it is, hydrogen and all that chemicals in the sky, and sitting on a bench and just I could have sat there all day.
Well, we're glad you didn't, and that you're here.
Yeah. No, I was glad to get back and see Liz and yourself. So let's kind of go on to a few of other things that are happening around this time of year. The Friday the 17th to Sunday 26th September is the Great British Beach Clean. This is an annual event where every September thousands of people take to the beach all over the UK to take part in this Great British Beach Clean, and it's a week-long citizen science event where hundreds of beach cleans take place up and down the UK, and litter data collected drives the conservation work and also feeds into the international coastal cleanup. And on every clean week, they ask people to run a litter survey, recording all the items of rubbish they find in a 100-meter stretch. And then the campaign uses this data to campaign for real change. However, if you don't live near a beach, or you may have noticed a litter area in a park or street near you, you're also asked for your help. Last year, they say 70% of litter picks that took place on streets and in parks found PPE litter, 99% found drinks containers, and they've seen some great results. The data has been used to make a positive impact on the ocean, including the introduction of the plastic bag charge, banning microplastics in personal care products, better wet wipe labeling, and supporting a tax on single-use plastic items. But they say there's still much to do to stop the litter plaguing the beaches. 425 litter items found per 100 meters of beach surveyed in the last year's clean, and 30% of beach cleans found face masks and PPE. There's been a 55% drop in plastic bags found on UK beaches since the 5p charge was introduced, so that's good news. How are we taking part in British Beach Clean? Either of us? Sweyn, are you taking part?
I didn't. It very handily covers 2 weekends. So I didn't this past weekend, but I plan to this coming weekend. There's been 4 or 5 specific things organised in Orkney, as you might expect. We've got quite a lot of coast to go around here. So yeah, I'll be taking part in one of those next weekend, I hope.
Good. And Liz, are you near a beach anywhere?
Not really. I'm kind of inland, but I like the idea of I've got a nature reserve near me, so that sounds like a nice opportunity to kind of see. And you're absolutely right. Like the stats back up what I've been seeing. Like there's lots of PPE stuff, kind of flying around, all the disposable kind of face masks and things. So yeah, it'd be good to kind of. I think if you just get into the habit of like picking bits up as you go, I think that's really good. But I think there's that extra worry when it's kind of personal items and stuff, like if you've not got the right equipment to do the job to pick it up safely, then It's kind of got that added worry, hasn't it, really?
It seems like the worst kind of litter, really. Yeah. I mean, I've done litter picking in my mum's village in Ireland, and actually the worst litter there was cigarette butts, because even when you have a picker, trying to pick up a cigarette butt with a picker is a skill.
Yeah.
Sweyn,
There is the separate initiative that's been going for a couple of years now, to whenever you go to the beach, spend 2 minutes picking up litter and getting rid of it. So that's not, but this is a different thing. So
that's a good idea to do that as well. So we'd encourage that. Also around this time of year, 20th to 26th of September is Recycle Week 2021. This is the nation's annual celebration of recycling. And Recycle Week is Recycle Now's new flagship annual event, a celebration of recycling across the nation. It's in its 18th year. One week of the year where retailers, brands, waste management companies, trade associations, governments, and the media come together to achieve one goal: to galvanize the public into recycling more of the right things more often. And their theme this year is Step It Up this Recycle Week. They're talking about the climate crisis, a tough subject, but we're a nation of even tougher subjects, they say. The last 15 months have shown that. And while throughout the past year, many things have happened over which we've no control, the climate crisis is something we can actually do something about. Every one of us, every single day, as we've just said about the beach thing as well. Most of us do through smaller, powerful habits like recycling. But we know environmental concerns are still on the increase. So we need to do more. We need to do it now. We need to act together. So they're calling on people to step it up this Recycle Week. And I think that is something we just kind of take for granted now, isn't it? That we have 2 bins at least where we put recycling into. Is that something you do, Liz? Something
Yeah, definitely. I think there's one concern that I think different councils do different schemes. And so there's no real clarity on what's allowed and what's not. And I think there was some research done recently that I think something like only 70% of the stuff that you put in your recycle bins is actually able to be recycled, because people are kind of putting everything in, just assuming that it's recyclable. And actually, the things like the soft plastics, they're seeing a lot of adverts where I think there's a Co-op advert on at the moment that's saying we now recycle soft plastics like bread bags and things like that. And actually, a lot of people don't realise you're not supposed to put those in your general council recycling bin, because, different councils have different rules. But I think that lack of clarity of what is and what isn't allowed, I think that really stumbles people. And I think then they think, oh, whatever. So either they dump it all in, which probably isn't helping, or they don't bother to recycle at all because it's a bit too confusing.
Yeah, the bins in my shared flats here are very popular, the recycling bins, and they tend to get filled up very quickly. I don't know what people are. Anyway, no comment. But it's full of paper and stuff. And so I was very tempted the other day to just dump all my excess paper, because there wasn't room for it, in the ordinary bin. But I didn't. I saved it, and
that would be ready just as well, since it's Recycle Week.
Yes. So I'll keep my recycled badge.
And of course, recycling should only be the third or fourth thing that we do in terms of energy use. The main thing is not to buy so much stuff in the first place, and to reuse without going to all the energy expenditure of recycling.
Absolutely.
Whatever we can. And everyone knows this, but none of us are very well. I'm not particularly good at doing that, I must admit.
Well, I do encourage. I download the. I think you've mentioned before the app Olio, where people can kind of recycle things, and there's others apps, Freegal and all that kind of stuff as well. So I do try to get stuff recycled and recycle stuff myself. So yes, I'm trying for that badge. Liz, are you a recycler or a reuser?
Yeah, big time. I'm actually a minimalist as well. So I massively believe in not buying stuff you don't need. So I continuously declutter or regift things if they're still usable. And it kind of in the same theme. I'm based in Chorley, and we have a Chorley repair cafe. So even if there's something that you don't necessarily have the skills to fix, or it might just be as, for me, it would be simple to change a fuse, but not necessarily everyone knows how to do that. So there's a group of people that volunteer and kind of help out. So there's some textiles, there's some electronics. I think last month they fixed like 7 Hoovers, and it was all like a dead simple thing to fix. Generally, it was a really sort of cheap part that meant that, sort of up to £500 worth of a Hoover was reusable and fixable again. So I think that's always a popular thing to go for as well.
And in digital, of course, we've had lots of guests on who are accepting phones which have been upgraded, or tablets or laptops. There's always a place to donate those to
Absolutely.
wherever we are, and it's perhaps one of the most important things to reuse our electronics, because there's so many rare metals and so much energy and so much water goes into production of each device, that if we can possibly keep them going for another year or two, another 3 or 4 years possibly, that's so much the better.
Absolutely. So one more thing we picked up around this time of year, which we thought we couldn't leave out, it being such a wonderful day, is International Week of Happiness at Work, which is Monday 20th to Sunday 26th of September. And they want this campaign wants to make happiness at work the norm and not the exception. It pays off. For yourself, when you're happy, you're healthier, more vital, more cheerful, more social, and more successful. And for organizations, happier employees are more involved, more productive, more cooperative, more creative, and more innovative. They're less likely to call in sick, and there's a decreased chance they'll experience a burnout. But happiness at work, isn't just doesn't come. You need to have meaningful work, healthy relationships, development, and have fun, and not have unnecessary rules, power play, complicated processes and procedures, absenteeism, unmotivated colleagues, and terrible managers. Let's all look to our laurels for that. Let's create a workplace, they say, to stimulate fun, appreciation, positive feedback, awesome challenges, trust, meaningful results, and own our responsibilities. And let us as employees, employers, entrepreneurs, organizations, and especially as human beings work together to make happiness at work the norm and not the exception. So I think we can all fully subscribe to that. That was an International Week of Happiness at work.com. Sounds like one we could just say yes. Something
that was invented in the Netherlands, apparently, and has gone international since then. Oh dear, Good. I've just unplugged my laptop.
Okie doke. Well, we'll carry on to the next item, which is an event we picked up. Now, this is actually not happening until October, but I just thought it was interesting to see it happening. It's happening in the US, and so people may not. And it's quite expensive actually. It's up to $1,000 to subscribe, but they do offer a digital option as well, which is only a couple of $100s. And I just thought it was interesting to see what's happening, because we like to see what's happening in other countries and kind of see how it might percolate, because it'll eventually come over here, obviously. And this is the MEnabling Summit Conference and Showcase on the 4th to the 6th of October, taking place both in person and virtually, and it's dedicated to promoting digital environments and assistive technologies for senior citizens and users of all abilities. An annual meeting place for all who implement digital inclusion strategies or develop assistive solutions and accessible digital content and services for workplaces, learning environments, or consumer markets. And the theme is strategies for inclusive digital transformations. And this summit will highlight the major shifts in business, government, and education driven by the pandemic that will affect anyone involved in inclusion, accessibility, services to persons with disabilities, or compliance matters. And they look forward to a rich sharing of experience and interactions to spark dialogue through panel discussions, instant polls, brainstorming, and live debates with advocacy leaders, business executives, and technology providers offering insights on how to best meet the imperative to ensure that persons with disabilities have full access to critical digital contents and services. And they give some stats on the demography. The demographic reality of more than 1 billion persons around the world living with a disability presents unprecedented accessibility challenges, but also opportunities for governments and the private sector alike. So this summit will gather leading executives and accessibility professionals from government, industry, and advocacy organizations from around the world to network and participate in plenary and specialized breakout sessions, as well as other special featured events. And I will be recommending it to the West Midlands Coalition on Digital Inclusion, because they would have a budget for this where I wouldn't. And it's all about not reinventing the wheel. Some people are doing great work out there. Let's share what they're doing so we don't have to start over again. Okie doke. So this brings us on to our very special guest for today, Liz Hardwick. And Liz is the professional speaker and trainer and co-founder of digienable. She's a Lancashire lass and passionate digital storyteller on a mission to take the fear out of content generation. A total self-confessed geek and loves using technology to give businesses a human side. She helps business owners, leaders, and their teams reclaim their time, energy, and focus with tried and tested productivity methods and digital tools to achieve that iconic 4-day working week. She can be seen regularly speaking at events across the world and online on topics such as digital productivity, focus, and time management, digital technology, and her own email management system, Zenfonebox. And we can talk about that in a minute because I've used that. Liz is a digital productivity specialist, professional speaker, trainer, and tech founder, and has been sharing her expertise and experiences of harnessing digital for human benefit for over 15 years. And she does this through talks, trainings, and virtual seminars. And since last year, via her online e-learning platform and productivity membership. And at digienable, she works with variously sized businesses and not-for-profit organizations to create compelling digital content, which gives them the edge in the battle for their customers' attention. She's been recognized for her achievements in the Tech Women 100, Tech World's top 111 UK women in tech speakers, Business Cloud's 101 female founders in tech, and the Digital Leaders UK 100. So Liz, you're extremely welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Very nice to have you here. Liz, we understand that you knew our founder, John Popham.
Yes, yeah. I think I first met John over Twitter and then tweeted a lot, engaged a lot on Twitter, and then met I think the first thing that I met him at was probably Barcamp Blackpool. So up here in the north, I think he came and travelled and he did a few talks. So yeah, that's probably 10 years plus ago.
Wow. Can you explain Barcamp for people who might not know what it is?
Of course. So it's basically an unconference, which is people turn up on the day. There's different rooms for people to share their own stories, share their talk, share experiences. Some people come prepared, some people don't. And it's a great sort of ad hoc day. Like there'll be coffee breaks and there'll be lunch, and then you kind of rock up and see what happens. Normally a kind of focus around technology. And I know John I used to see him at a lot of like government camp sort of coding based ones as well.
And I think the great thing that I really like about bar camps and on conferences is you leave your job title at the door. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're the intern, a CEO, you have equal billing, an equal chance to pitch your session and get it heard. So yeah, very, very big fans here, both of us, of bar camps and conferences. And we've done some online actually during lockdown as well. In fact, there's one coming up, Comms Camp. Shout out for Dan Slee and his merry band of troops this week, in fact. And we've done VCSS Camp, Sweyn, haven't we? And yep. We did Open Data Cafe. So we did a couple of events online.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you been to any since during lockdown, Liz?
Do you know what? I haven't been to anything online in that sense. I guess I didn't really know that it was around. I knew there was a few security conferences that had gone online, sort of the unconference style there. But yeah, I've missed the boat on that.
Yeah, well, there we go. There we go.
It lends itself to a kind of Zoom environment quite well. It's not as good as actually seeing everyone and actually getting all that lovely coffee and so on. But it's been good that organizing committees have tried to keep their event going through the pandemic. So it's been good for us at least.
Including some social events, like Comms Camp is having its traditional curry the night before the event tomorrow night online. So people are invited to kind of rock up and bring their own curry.
Don't tell anyone. It's actually a test that they can join. And
no, I'm not telling anybody that. No.
Being comms professionals, all of them except me, they've thought of a great way to sell it.
It's great fun. I've been going for a couple of years as a volunteer, and it's just it's mostly public sector people. But the welcome is warm, whatever sector you're in. Again, leave your title at the door. Nobody really cares that much. As long as you've got something interesting or funny or, engaging to say, then you're welcome. So Liz, how are you? We met about, X number of years ago. I can't remember. We're both so youthful. But I know we've met at Ada's List, a couple of Ada's List events. So that might have been it actually, because I know we would have met on Twitter first, of course. Everybody, we've all met on Twitter. In the first. So how long have you been on Twitter yourself?
Oh gosh, so we're probably talking 15 years. Mm-hmm. Sounds a lot, doesn't it? I think Twitter's been around for over 20 now. So I wasn't one of the first users. I went to a Geek Up. Just a informal get together with geeks in the local area. Someone was like, "Oh, are you on Twitter?" Oh no, I'm not. What's that about? So someone taught me the ways of Twitter, and I think it's been great to connect around the UK, around the world, with people who have similar interests. And as much as there's loads of new platforms that have come around, I think Twitter is still my home because I think there's more conversations happening in my opinion with the people that I'd like to have conversations with. So yeah, I think we finally met in person a few years ago at face-to-face thing in I think it was in Google building somewhere in London. There we go. And I was like, we're actually in the flesh, real, and I think, that I know there's a lot of negativity around social media, but that being able to meet in, online and then actually already feel like you know each other and you can connect straight away. And I think that does the world of good for people who maybe, wouldn't normally go and walk up to a random stranger and go, "Hiya, Pauline. We've never met in person, but I feel like I know you." I think that's really nice to kind of break the ice with.
Or someone could say, "I follow you on Twitter," and you don't feel like they're stalking you. They're just interested in the kind of things you're interested in.
Exactly.
You have some connection already.
Exactly. And I think, you can sort of get a little bit of an insight into people's lives and interests. And, I think it's a great way of being able to sort of keep on top of what other people are up to as well. It's really easy to see, you popped up on my social media feed that you've got a relatively new job recently. And I was like, oh, right, brilliant. And then, we kind of reconnected from there. So I think, it's a great opportunity just to connect with people and reconnect with people. And, I think, I still like it.
I do too. Very fond of it. So where did your digital journey start, Liz? I mean, you're obviously, if I call you an elder, does that insult you? You've matured into the digital world, but where did it start for you?
Elder makes me sound wise. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but so I've been in the digital and media sectors for about 20-25 years. My background started in broadcasting. So I used to work for ITV, BBC as a freelancer. I then got what my mum would call a proper job for a while, building radio studios and music recording facilities. I ran a radio station for 7 years. That went really well. That became, it was a community-based one. So it was the second largest community radio station in the UK. So we did loads of national projects. We used media to train people in digital skills and media literacy and things like that. And then sadly, the charity went under. It didn't have enough kind of funding bids go right in the right direction. And so sadly, the organisation ceased to exist. And so me and my business partner at digienable, Darren, we both used to work together at the radio station. So digienable was born out of still wanting to deliver these national projects, but suddenly not having an organisation we were working for. So we kind of said to some funders, like, do you mind if we carry on? Like, if it's going to be a different name? And then they said, check with your partners, and the partners were fine. So then we, for the first year, hit the ground running as digienable, working on media training across the UK. And then 10 years ahead, we're still going. We do digital, wide range of digital services, wide range of media training, digital training, productivity training. We've got another couple of businesses as well. So yeah, it's kind of, it's got that speed up over time that, oh, there we go. Yeah, that's okay. Us. Got loads of stuff going on.
Well, it sounds like the company that you, or the charity you worked for, was ahead of its time if it was doing digital skills training and stuff like that. That would be very helpful now.
It really was. We were really lucky to have European funding at the time. The charity had been going 21 years when we started. So basically it had won the grant to run the radio station, and it all be about social gain, all be about training people to have digital skills, to create their own radio, create their own production. So things like interviewing skills, being the interviewer and the interviewee. I mean, that helps in the world of life as well. So lots of transferable skills for people. We became an accredited NCFE accredited centre, so people were able to then have qualifications off the back of the training that they did with us. It was absolutely ahead of its game, and we as a project got a lot of money because it was forward thinking. And sadly, the rest of the charity was sort of starting to dwindle in terms of funds. So Yeah, just it was a real shame, really. The radio station is still going in a different format. We handed it over to volunteers, so it was there for a couple of years in the same guise. It's been taken over by other people now, but the license is still there for the community, for the region. So you know, it's still going strong, probably 20 years on.
Wow, that's
Great,
some legacy.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's nice to hear. I still drive around, and when I drive into Preston, I'll still listen to it on occasion. I think it's nice to reminisce as well. But we also bump it. You know, we bump into people. You know, we've used people in the past as freelancers for digienable, and they've come and helped us from the radio stations volunteers as well. So you know, it's still a great community, and we still connected with people. So you know, the kind of heart of it's still there somewhere.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about your kind of the human touch in digital, because I think that's, you know, that was a key thing that kind of sparked John, and the kind of thing that we want to do is, you know, as you say, harnessing digital for human benefit. What's your take on that? What's your background and experience
Absolutely.
now?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a massive geek. I absolutely love technology. I love digital. Like that's what gets me up in the morning. But I also love people, and I love being able to help people. And I think sometimes we can use technology just for the sake of it. I think we can try and force technology on people, be it within organizations and for their staff, and actually they don't necessarily need it. Do we need the shiniest version of something new? Do you need the latest smart device? Or is it that we're all right with what we're using, but actually we need to use it maybe in a better way? I think there's a stat out there that says, for like a computer program or a piece of technology, we usually only use 20 to 30% of its features. So being able to actually like say to an organization or a team or a charity, or even like maybe a business owner or an individual who's using technology to just get stuff done, you know, to be able to say, well, you've already got this free thing or this thing that you're paying a fee for every month. Did you know it does all of these other things as well? And actually, you don't necessarily need 5 different programs when one of them might do it and you've already got access to it. So definitely about, you know, using technology, but not letting it control us, and not letting technology then force our hand in deciding things. It just being an assistive thing that helps us do what it is we want to do.
So can you think of an example maybe that people might be familiar with that they have and they might not be using it to its fullest extent?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, just a prime example, pick any piece of software from Microsoft Office. Most people who are on like a Windows system will have Microsoft Office in there, Office 365. Just like if we're using a word processing document or an Excel spreadsheet, we're probably just scratching the surface of that. You know, there's super users who know shortcuts for things and know how to like, you know, make everything colorful and, you know, meta tags and using all of this clever coding thing that makes Excel spreadsheets work. Whereas, you know, me, I'm just typing numbers into a little box, you know, so even I, you know, I'm no expert in Excel. There's other people that are better at that than me. And, you know, it's kind of, I'm probably only using maybe 30-40% of it. And that's when I'm really trying to practice using something like that. And, you know, there's so many things where it says, oh, you can automatically sum something. Oh, great. Okay. Didn't even know that, you know, so it's all of those things that unless you're kind of trained by someone, or unless you really do your homework, research and have a play around, we can just, you know, use it for what we desperately need to do with it right now. And then, you know, the learning kind of goes on the back burner until something else pops up.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what you say about using technology. I mean, people are really important. So like in the project I'm working on now for Northfield Community Partnership, I'm the digital literacy coordinator. And a big part of the project is lending devices to over 50s. Got a suite of laptops to lend to over 50s. But like, I don't want the end of the point of the project to be that someone's hunched over a laptop, sort of typing away. I want them to be able to use the laptop to send emails, to connect with their family and friends, to do shopping, to free them up, to do more fun and interesting things, you know, to automate the boring things and the kind of things that take a bit longer, you know, paying your bills, connecting with government, you know, to public services, you know, election registering for elections, stuff like that. All the things that we kind of take for granted, that we know we can log on and do something like that, and lots of other people don't know that and find it a bit more difficult. Now, there is a lot to be said for choosing to not do online banking because you want to meet your friends and neighbors when you go to the bank. It's a social thing. Let's face it, not everybody wants to give that up. But if there's something like a change of address or something that like might take a long time, it's not worth going into the bank for, then you can choose to do either. It's having the choice, isn't it, to do either? And that's what I hope my project will do in Northfield and Edgbaston. And we have some data on digital exclusion in the area. We're hoping to get some more so we can drill down and sort of concentrate on the areas where we know there is definitely digital exclusion and sort of bring them up. I mean, the government has this great term now, leveling up. Deep breath. But they, I want to see kind of level down. I know there are places that are better off, and I want everybody to be on kind of be able to draw on the richness that life online offers, but not forgetting that people are the most important thing, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's, there's one story that, that we're really kind of proud of in terms of the digital sort of inclusion stuff that we do. We were kind of like on a flag market. We were trying to recruit for a housing association we were working for, just kind of get people onto like really like, introductory basic digital skills courses. And there was a lady who was with her husband, and the lady was really keen. She's like, oh yeah, that sounds really good. Like, I've never used a computer before, but like, come in. Well, if you've got half an hour, come in and we can kind of have a bit of a play together. And she absolutely loved it. And the guy was like, oh no, I'm not interested. I'll read my paper. And so we just made him a brew and sat in the corner. And, we were chatting to him and like, well, what would you like to do? Like, what's your interest? And actually, we still hooked him in the end, because we realized that he loves driving. He doesn't use the internet. He'd, love to. And we kind of said, well, would you want to, kind of save money on your car insurance? And they hadn't necessarily ever done that, like a comparison website. So we managed to save him like 200 quid a year on his car insurance. He was loving it. And then suddenly he's like, oh, what's this internet thing about?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Like, who cares about the internet? Like, the internet isn't interesting or exciting until there's a reason to use that technology or that resource. And, the lady wanted to connect with her friends and family. And so she'd always wanted to set up a Facebook account, but didn't quite know where to start. So we did that. So 2 happy kind of customers went away to having saved money, but also being a bit inspired of like, well, this is what we could do. We can go to the library if you've got a library card. All right, yeah, take books out of there all the time. Well, you could go and you could just, log on like we've done today here. And, and I think that kind of inspiring conversation of like, there's still 16% of the UK that don't have enough digital skills to do what they want to do. And sadly, I think the whole COVID situation has probably pushed that number up or pushed those people further away from the resources that they might have had access to, and so that's something that I think, 2022 needs to be, something that we all kind of make a bit more of an effort to kickstart again, because, being able to sit next to someone in a library obviously hasn't been possible for a lot of, the past 18 months. So, I'm keen to get our stuff back up and running to be able to enable that. But, just those stories kind of, that's why we want to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. You've ticked the first box in our Dr. Tech Show bingo with libraries, because we're big fans of public libraries and the great they've always done digital inclusion, but they haven't been recognized as such, and so it's becoming more common now. We had a guest on a couple of months ago, Ciara Allman, who's done some research at Oxford about this, and in fact one of the stories we picked up during the week was about her report and how public libraries are still not recognized as the kind of hubs of digital inclusion that they always have been. When I go to meetings about digital inclusion, people say, oh, we should set up a hub. Well, they already exist. Support your local library, make sure they can still give the offer that they always have done.
I think it's been such a struggle for them. I think, we're really pro libraries. We've done lots of, digital training alongside libraries over the years. And just in the county of Lancashire here, they got rid of 32 libraries over the past sort of 3 years. And they've all been sort of like really like the hubs. like the little spokes that are outside in the more deprived communities where people aren't going to get on a bus and go into the city centre. And, you know, I think it's kind of quite naive to have got rid of those, because then they're like, oh, well, we need a community centre. It's like, yeah, it's that thing that you like closed down 3 years ago. But, you know, I think it's only when people then suddenly see the need again that maybe then that's the backing and the funding, hopefully in future, that needs to, you know, there's so many smaller libraries in Lancashire that are either shut or are being run by volunteers at the moment. You know, obviously they've got very limited capacity to kind of, you know, help other people. But, you know, it absolutely is. For some people, that's the only place that they feel safe in their community. So
absolutely. What's the only place you can go where you don't have to spend money to enjoy the facility? You know, it's one of the very few places. I think that and the doctor surgery probably are the two places that people have gone for that. But yeah, it is. And, you know, I'm nothing against volunteers who get involved in running libraries, but they're not, you know, you need professionally trained staff. You know, books and other materials don't just arrive on shelves. You know, they have to be chosen, they have to be allocated, they have to be, you know, thought about by somebody who's had professional training in that, and provide other services. And who knows what else is going on that they could take advantage of. So yeah, good. That's good to know we're on the same wavelength there. So Liz, what you kind of use LinkedIn a lot, I know, and you have been writing recently about deep work. Which is something I've seen echoed other places as well now. So people are starting to understand what that is. Would you mind explaining what that is for people, and we can talk a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. So deep work is a concept that was coined probably 2018 by a guy called Cal Newport. He created a book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, and it was all around having focused time, head down, not getting distracted. And then he goes on to explain a deep work being activities that involve like your brain capacity, sort of doing things that maybe are a little bit more in depth with your thinking rather than something more simple. And that it's moving you forwards. So it increases, he calls it increasing the performance. But I understand that to be getting stuff done, moving forwards, you know, not just kind of treading water. And for me, that would be, you know, the opposite of that. Cal talks about shallow work as an opposition to deep work. But we've had conversations here at digienable. We don't like the phrase of shallow. So for us, it's light work, and deep work. Because actually, you know, shallow work can still be quite important, but maybe it just doesn't need as much brain capacity. So emails,
paddling work, surface work.
you know, like just scratching the surface stuff. And that maybe isn't getting stuff done that's moving you forward. So it might be emails, it might be social media, it might be marketing or sales or sending an invoice or creating a paper. You know, it's lighter work that you could then multitask while doing it. So the deep work, very much about having single focused, you know, time to focus on particular things, but the idea being that you have something that's quite productive off the back of it.
And how much time do you reckon people need to dedicate to this during the week?
So there's lots of research that says a human can only do a maximum of 3 hours deep work a day. So if you figure that out and you think, well, if you could do maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, and then strip it across your work week. So I very much advocate the 4-day work week. So that would be maybe 2 hours across 4-day work weeks. That would be 8 hours in a week. And even if like you just started out and you just say you get an hour a day or a couple of hours a week of something deep work, I think especially with, you know, the world around us being very distracting right now, and it having been for a while now, and being lots of external factors that are kind of vying on our brain capacity, I think even if we just say a couple of hours deep work a week, I think is a great starting point. Because, you know, to actually start, I work with a lot of people who are kind of stuck in that procrastinating, overwhelm mode. So actually just to get moving again and get stuff done might just be like trying for like half an hour to get something achieved that really helps move you forward. So yeah, maximum 3 hours a day, but if you're starting out, I'd be saying like, even if just doing a couple of hours a week would help, you know.
Sounds really good. And it's something you can timetable into your calendar and try and stick with that. It's sometimes hard to protect those times, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I highly recommend like calendar blocking if you can, where you're blocking out different bits of time to do different things. So, you know, one of my friends literally only has like meetings in a calendar, and then like it's a free for all of everything else. And, you know, for me, I'd be like, well, what are you going to do when? And she sort of says, oh, I'll like freestyle it. But it might not necessarily be the most productive way to go about that.
And the other thing that I've picked up that you've been kind of supporting people with is this Zenfonebox. Please explain what that is and how that can help people.
So Zenfonebox is the process that we've created. It's an amalgamation of loads of different things, and it's tried and tested way of working. So the concept being, only check your emails when you're ready to deal with them. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, don't just keep seeing things pop up in your emails or pop up in your notification boxes, and kind of every time you get distracted by them, even if you don't click on them, like, you've been distracted. So that just straight away, like, only open your emails when you're ready to deal with them, and only go and look at your emails I would say at a designated time. But I appreciate that's not an option for everyone. But for example, I would have like half an hour in the morning, half an hour in lunchtime-ish, and half an hour, you know, at the end of my working day, just to dip in and see what happens. So step one, get ready, be ready for it. And then if you can reply to anything, then you know straight away you're doing that. And step two, have like a first pass. So look at the things in your inbox, and if you can delete it. If you can hit spam. If there's stuff that you can reply to within like 2-3 minutes, hit reply and answer straight away. If it's something that will take you longer than 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that, then I would say create a folder called Actions Needed, and then put all of the things into there, and then finish clearing the rest of your inbox. So at the end of that first pass, you should have nothing else in your inbox. If you've got lots of like old stuff in there, then you have to kind of manage that before you're ready to go with that. But it's just so therapeutic to just see no emails in inbox. So then obviously you've not dealt with those things you've just put into the Actions Needed folder yet. So you might go in and then, like you said just then, Pauline, schedule some time to do stuff. So put it into your calendar. Okay, I've got this task. This task is going to take me 20 minutes. I'm going to schedule it in for today or later on in the week, so that you know that then there's a period of time where you're going to achieve that task. So especially if someone else is involved in that process. So maybe someone else is helping you like write a particular report or a research document. You're going to be kind of swinging that back and forward. So you might be waiting on someone before you can pass that on to someone else. And then every email slot that I have, so say like I have a 25-minute slot, I could probably do like 3 or 4 of those quick responses within that time slot. And so then if I've finished all of that, then I'll go back into my Actions Needed folder and see if there's anything I can do there. And then once you've got that practice going, actually, rather than looking at your inbox at the start of that email time slot, you look at your Actions Needed folder first. So that actually what you're doing is you're controlling your own agenda, rather than having emails come in and that sort of shifting the way that you might have planned your day. So if you're looking at your emails first thing in the morning and kind of going, actually, like, there's so many things that people want from me, or I should do that, I should start writing that report now to that such and such a person, and it can just distract you straight away. So having that kind of clarity of like, I'm going to see if there's anything there, I'm going to process my inbox, and then schedule something if it needs a further task. I mean, it just saves me so much time. We spend on average 16 hours a week in our emails. I've managed to get that down to 8. And that's me trying really hard not to be doing emails all the time. So, you know, it's a tough one, because I think there's this sort of ethos that we need to be instantly accessible and replying to emails, and people sometimes expect an instant reply. So we've got that to contend with. But, you know, I think there's ways to go about it where we can kind of set ourselves up to say, I'm only going to check it 3 times a day. It's probably not a majorly urgent thing if I don't reply in the next 3 hours before I check them again. And then that goes hand in hand with the deep work, because actually you're not getting distracted by emails because you've switched them off. So you can actually focus and get something done that you actually want to achieve, So yeah, I hope that's a whistle stop tour.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. And the other, because I saw one of your clients talking about this, and she was really positive about it. The other tag that you suggested was info for later. And I found that very useful. And I've put subfolders in that for, things I want to catch up on later, but I don't have time to look at now. And my inbox is generally empty at the moment. So I'm really very pleased with that. Yeah.
That's it. If you can archive stuff off, or filtering newsletters. We call it ham because it's not spam. But it's not super important. So sorry for the veggies and vegans. It could be a vegan corn ham. But they're the things that we do want to read. So, people who are saying, well, just unsubscribe from that newsletter. Well, we don't want to unsubscribe because we do want that information, but we want to choose at what time. So generally I'll do like a Thursday afternoon wrap up where I'll read those sorts of emails in that time. So I can have a look through, see if there's anything like of interest, but it's probably not something I need to read straight away. So I don't want it in my inbox. I want to filter it off into a for info for later.
Yeah. What do you think, Sweyn? Have you picked up some useful tips there?
I think these are all great ideas. I'm looking a bit shifty because my inbox is definitely not empty.
Go on. What's the number?
Oh,
is it 4 numbers?
It's 4 numbers. Yes.
Oh God.
At least it's not 5. Can I get maybe? Might not be that long. No. I go through periods of doing exactly what you say, and then I go through periods of thinking, well, I'm just going to surf this wave and see where I get to.
Yeah.
But I like the idea, and something I have done is saving things for later, either in bookmark folders or in email folders or whatever. I think that's a really, really good thing to do, and also to try and tag them with a word that you might remember them by, because there's nothing more annoying than yes, I had an email about that. Oh, where was it from?
What was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
my sister's a big fan of using tags in email, and I think if you can get your mind into that discipline, I think that's another useful technique.
I think we've just got really lazy at emailing each other as well, because I think sometimes we don't even really use the subject line. There's a few occasions where I won't even get a subject line title. I work with teams where they're overwhelmed with email, and mainly it's internal email. So there's other platforms out there you could use, and we suggest that. But a big thing is actually, absolutely, if you're looking for something that you want to be able to search for later, making sure that you put the right words that are going to be searchable in future, either in the subject line or the body, or for some sort of bigger corporate organizations we've helped before, we actually get them to get used to doing a reference code at the bottom of emails. So if it refers to a project or a client, putting that in the actual body of the email, so that, yes, when we go to search it 2 years later, going, God, where's that email from such and such? The search function will do its job properly then.
Great. That's a great tip. Yeah, I like that. So, Liz, we're going to move on to some of our stories, but if people want to find you online and catch up and sort of find out what you can do for them, where's the best place?
Sure. Type in Liz Hardwick into most search engines, or digienable, digienable.co.uk.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, we picked up a few stories that we think might be relevant to our listeners and users. And the first one is for a tweet from NCVO about responding, recovering, resetting the voluntary sector in COVID-19. And this was, I can't see the date on it, but Sweyn might bring it up on screen in a minute. And what they say is their latest Respond, Recover, Reset report is now available. And during Wave 9, they focused on the general theme of digitalization. They said since March, I'm reading what's in the content. This March 2020, many organizations have adopted digital approaches to maintain operations, accelerating the transformation that had been underway for years. And as we know, the lockdown limitations required many organizations to find new ways for their employees and volunteers to communicate, collaborate, and complete their tasks while working remotely. And in August 2021, 81% of organizations who participated in the NCVO survey mentioned a change in the way they use digital technology as a result of the pandemic. And they had 349 respondents, and 45% reported an improved accessibility of their service as a result of the online operation, while 17% reported reduced accessibility. 82% of their organizations in their sample reported using digital technology by their staff members to work or volunteer remotely, with only 41% using technology before the pandemic. So that was an increase of 50%. Or is it 100%? If it's, yeah, 100% increase. Yeah. So it also says the level of digital skills required by staff and volunteers has increased to 73% of the organization, including teleconferencing such as Teams, Skype or Zoom, email communication, online security and online transactions. However, it says despite the considerable increase in the use of technology, organizations identify the skills of staff, volunteers and service users, as well as cost of equipment and software as the main barriers they face in trying to increase or improve the use of digital technology in organizational operations. And I think, you know, we've kind of covered this many times in the show. You know, for charities, often they're relying on funders to fund digital, and funders don't necessarily understand what it's all about, even now. So there are challenges. I mean, you must find that, Liz, in your work that you know, people want to change but don't necessarily have the funding to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think it's investing in people that it goes back to, isn't it? Because I think if staff feel underprepared or feel like they've just been sort of chucked in at the deep end, you know, you mentioned before about the happiness at work. I think that's got a huge element to do with it as well, because if, you know, you train people and you invest in people, they're much more likely to feel comfortable in that environment as well. I think whenever someone mentions funding and digitization, we worked on one of the first projects that Heritage Lottery Fund actually agreed that we were allowed to do digital historic documenting. So, you know, we really had to do convince a piece of, you know, to keep history and the kind of history line and evidence of that going. We needed to use digital pretty soon, because otherwise it wouldn't necessarily be accessible to, you know, for the next generations. And there's some pieces around. We've done some work in the past around media with LGBTQ communities, and those people who are maybe in their 60s and 70s now have got stories of, you know, being in that environment, in that community when it was illegal to be gay, and you know, sharing those stories, using digital to archive that. But then also what we've done in the past is using younger members of the community to actually, you know, record those stories themselves and harness that, you know, and having the availability and the functionality for, you know, our local Lancashire archives to take that footage and take those stories. So, you know, they're kind of embedded in history forever, but, you know, we can't keep using paper and old ways of working. We need to kind of digitize it to kind of save it for future, because, you know, those stories will be lost otherwise.
So a really good example of the kind of thing we're talking about. So yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for that, Liz. Moving on to another tweet. It's from a Twitter account called Patients Know Best. And I found it interesting because it said, a common misconception is that Patients Know Best is only for the younger generations. You might be surprised to know that 20% of our registry users are in the 65 plus age category and make up 21% of patients who logged in last month. So it's great to hear that older people are, you know, want to know more about their own health and look after themselves. Digital health has been you know, something we've picked up on previously. So it's good to know that people are picking up, you know, over 65s are picking up this knowledge and information that's out there. So well done to Patients Know Best for that, making that available. We picked up a tweet again, another one from the United Nations Envoy on Technology, and they were launching the Common Agenda that would have been earlier September, and they were calling for a global digital compact for governments, private sector and civil society that builds on the Secretary General's Digital Cooperation Roadmap recommendations to outline shared principles for an open, free and secure digital future for all. And the Common Agenda also highlights the issue of digital inclusion, particularly in education. The quote was, reimagining education means investing in digital literacy and digital infrastructure to close the digital divide. and they were highlighting GigaConnect, which we referred to previously, and the importance of engaging tech companies. And again, Liz, I'm sure you've come across this in your work, that tech companies often, do want to get involved, but don't necessarily have the background to be able to provide a solution that's hasn't been they're not reinventing the wheel, or that they understand the drawbacks of ordinary people and what they might find difficult.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think, it for me, it's always keeping like people at the heart of it. And, I think sometimes, especially if you're, driven by other ways of success, I think people can end up being, the last, the last to be in that list. I think it's tough because, the technology could be used, but, prime examples of people not being consulted at the creation stage, having user panels, things like that are diverse, that can go, oh, wait a minute, like, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, or I'm not included in this demographic that you're talking about. And, those things that we take for granted, we just assume that, because it's not me, it's no one else.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next story is one that'll resonate with one of our regular listeners, Chris Condor, about broadband. And the headline is new data says more communities built their own broadband because of COVID. Now, this is a story from the US, but we do know that we can learn, as we said earlier, a lot from the US. This is by Carl Bode on Vice.com. And the story says that frustrated by inferior service from powerful telecom giants, new data suggests more than 1,000 US communities have now built their own broadband networks. While the trend has been accelerating for years, experts say it took off during the pandemic, which demonstrated obviously the country's need for better, faster and more affordable broadband. And the Institute for Local Self-Reliance maintains a database and interactive map tracking community-owned and operated broadband networks. And such networks take many forms, whether it's a broadband network built on the back of a local power utility, a local government-run ISP built from scratch, or a locally owned cooperative. And the ILSR told Motherboard, which is the company involved in writing this story, that its latest data shows that 83 municipal networks now deliver publicly owned fibre across 148 communities, which is up from 63 such networks early last year. 57 communities now operate their own cable broadband network. 600 networks are built on the back of local governments, and hundreds more are regional cooperatives. So it sounds like, great work happening across the whole of the US, with things we can learn from others. And Sweyn now has the map on screen that shows the different things that are happening. So I think we can share that with others, and hopefully they will be inspired to start their own broadband networks, because we know that there's still a lack of connectivity that's stopping people from being digitally included. I was trying to make a list of Wi-Fi that was available in Northfield and Edgbaston recently, and there are some pockets, but it's not widely available. It should be, but it's not. So yeah, we want to encourage that sort of thing. Sweyn, I think we've got time for one more story.
Yes.
Okay. And this one was about distortions during 9/11, the attacks on the 11th of September 2001. And this is one that kind of reflects misinformation that goes on, we know that goes on, and this is a good example of the kind of thing that happens. And apparently days after the attacks on the 11th of September 2001, the internet was rife with fake claims of what happened on the day. Many were quickly dismissed as silly hoaxes, but others were rooted in racism and anti-Semitism and conspiracies of collusion by the deep state. And 20 years later, they're a powerful reminder of how the internet can be manipulated to distort the truth. And we obviously don't want to encourage that to be happening. So we encourage people to be what do we say? Not cynical, be aware, kind of be educated about skeptical, that's the word, of what might, what's out there. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true,
Except, yeah, of course, in which case it's definitely true.
Except what?
You can trust what is on this show, obviously.
Yeah. But we do try and do our research and make sure that we are quoting, but we still encourage people to find out for themselves, because
yes, and if we're wrong, for goodness sake, let us know.
Absolutely. We do want to hear that. Yeah, definitely. I think, will we do one more, Sweyn, or
another one more? Yes, we'll do one more.
Okay. This was a story from The Verge, explaining why people should have a personal laptop. And this is more about mental kind of our well-being, really, rather than encouraging devices, although the story does kind of explain and try and promote certain types of laptops. But it's saying that the most important thing to remember if you're using a work laptop is you can assume your IT department can see what you're doing. Now, obviously, not everybody has an IT department, but for those who have, there'll be some kind of IT support. So, you know, you can assume other people can see what you're logging on to do. Companies obviously have always had and now still have all kinds of tools available to monitor their employees' devices, keyloggers, biometric tracking, geolocation, software that tracks web browsing and social media behavior. And over half, apparently, I don't know whether this is for the UK, but anyway, it says over half use some sort of monitoring technique, and the usage has become more popular throughout the pandemic. And of course, they can see, companies can see what you're doing if the company has company-run programs like Slack or G Suite Enterprise, which they have to sign up to. So you're writing a book or you're complaining about your co-workers, IT can see all of that. So it's obviously good to keep separate personal accounts, but it's even better if you have a separate device that you're not logging into for your personal stuff on your work email. And the article actually ends on a personal note about kind of mental well-being, and this was the kind of thing that really sold it for me. A majority of people feel their personal and professional lives are more blended together than they would be with office access. You know, when people working at home. As the person who wrote the article says, now that my work and my leisure happen in the same room with no commute between them, it's harder to ignore the nagging notion I should be working, even when I'm off the clock. There's more I could be doing. And they're speaking from personal experience. You know, a personal laptop can help because they're less tempted to look at their work email, and there's a sense of freedom knowing that you can just shut off the computer at the end of the day, and that Slack notifications aren't going to be popping up when you're watching something else you want to watch on your own device. So invest in your personal laptop as a security device, but also for your mental health. And so I think that'll bring us to the end of this week's show. Thanks again, Liz, for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you and pleasure to see you as always. Thanks, Sweyn, for another great show. Have a great week. Have a great week, everybody.